Amplify, the podcast that celebrates diverse voices in early childhood education. I'm your host, Alicia Carter, and today we're celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month and how we can celebrate this month in early childhood classrooms and in the community in a culturally responsive way. Joining me today is Jenny Guzman and Dr. Angela-Perla, who are both CAN ambassadors and leaders in their ECE communities. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. I'm Jenny Guzman. I am the Director of Program Operations for East Coast Migrant Head Start Project, which we cover 10 states throughout the United States, in which I oversee 5 of those states in our communities. And so I'm here to talk about what Hispanic Heritage Month means to us and what we do in our classrooms and our educational campuses and in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dr. Angela-Perla Almodovar from Florida, Miami-Dade County. In my professional life, I'm a professor and a trainer of early childhood education. I spend really my time doing advocacy in the United States and outside the United States based on the needs of early childhood education. At this particular time, I'm doing a lot of advocacy for family child care providers.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Welcome. So we're just going to jump right on in. And Jenny, I'm going to ask you first. So how do you all celebrate Heritage Months in your classrooms and incorporate the community in that celebration?
Thank you, Alicia. Yes, so our organization is really a multicultural, bilingual program in early childhood. And we celebrate a lot of the cultural in our classroom with especially our preschool classrooms and also our infant and tots. But we do that by including so many different books on cultural. We also include music into our daily activities. We include artwork, dancing, and we also participate a lot in our communities with local events, fairs that are out there that are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month as well. We just finished doing a couple of them in our campuses, which was a great success, not only for our children and our families, but also our staff. They get to learn so much because we also are very diverse cultural in our staff as well. So we have all different types of individuals that keep on learning from different cultures. So those are some of the ways that we incorporate celebrations of heritage in our classrooms and in our community as well.
Thank you. Dr. Angela-Perla, how have you, I know in the past you were in the classroom. I know you also kind of mentor other teachers and other leaders in the field. So how do you encourage them to celebrate Heritage Month, and how did you do it when you were in the classroom?
I still, I consider myself be part of the classrooms because of the type of job that I'm doing at this particular time. In the schools that I visit or I spend time doing volunteer or coaching, what we do is to invite teachers from other schools to come and do presentations. The parents, I suggest them to get the parents to bring resources and also, to invite members of the community to be participants. Like right now, last week, I went into one of the family child care, large family child care program. And what we did, it was to read books, the same thing, what Jenny is doing, bilingual books. The other thing that I encourage them to, to do is to ask the the parents to provide some flags from different countries. In that way, the children can get familiar, with the heritage, who they are. Another thing is to invite parents to dish up and share tradition, the tradition food that they eat for lunch. Um, some arts and craft, like for example, Friday was the celebration of Mexican heritage. And what I encourage them, to do is, besides asking them to bring the Mexican sombreros, to do arts in the classroom. And they did a lot of like Mexican rondas, and it was a very colorful and very appealing and happy time.
That's awesome. So, Dr. Angela-Perla, what are some activities that you found to be particularly effective for teaching young children about different cultures and heritage?
Um, One of the things that for years, I've been encouraged, the educators, the early childhood educators, to do is to explore the family tree. That to me is something that children can reach to a stronger sense of identity or who they are. The other thing that I encourage, including myself, I'll find sometimes that I have to push myself to model to the children an inclusive type of behavior, which is, showing compassion, showing, anti-bias behavior. Um, I remember beginning every single morning, uh, by greeting the children, using good morning in different languages. And by the end of the month, the children were proficiency in repeating, and they will say Mrs. A, because that's how they called me. It was a Mrs. A, today we are going to go to Japan. We're going to go to wherever country. The other thing that I'm big on, on including the families, and excuse me, I will send home assignments where the children will do interviews with the relatives, asking them who they are, what they eat, traditions that they practice, and holidays that they celebrate.
That's nice. My daughter's a little older, but she did just have to do a cultural project. And it definitely included having her to interview her grandmother so that she could I couldn't answer all the questions, so that she could really get a good sense of just kind of where my mom and her family is from. So I can relate to that one. Jenny, same question for you.
Yeah, so, some of the effective for the teaching the children is really based on the knowledge of the teacher as well. So a lot of the times the teacher needs to be prepared and plan ahead of time to be able to teach those children the different cultures, the different information that needs to be shared with them. This includes a lot of the getting, like Dr. Angela was saying, getting all the books ready, getting everything prepared, and having them also study the cultures or the book that they're going to be relating to the children. Coming from the classroom as well, in some of my back end experience, going on all of this, going back, it just brings back a lot of the memories that I had to do in learning the different culture. We as an organization have started implementing more of those cultural activities in our classrooms, not only for Hispanic Heritage Month, but all the other cultural heritage that we celebrate, because it's important for everybody to understand, even though, some of our population is the majority of our population is Hispanic, Latino. However, we do have those percentages that we have from different cultures, which we still have to include all that learning, all that experience that not only the teachers have, but the children get, and taking that home, because a lot of the activities that we call early learning activities that go out to the parents, they also have to learn about all this and have work with the children in the classroom. So it is very effective when you include the not only the classroom but also the home to this project, because it's important for them to also have that connection, that it's not only being studied at school, it's also studied at home, and having those very rich and engaging communication with their children, with the parents, because then that gets involved with other family members as well. So it is very important, all that communication that they get from the campus all the way to the home and all the way to other individuals that are doing it. Because like you said, Alicia, they do these things also in public school. So they're continuing to get that successful experience that we have. And what else more than early childhood giving them that head start to that public school communication with heritage?
Yeah, absolutely. What you brought up was like a really good point. I'm trying to remember the person that I heard who I heard this from, but I want to say it was one of our other speakers who did a workshop series, and it was about when teachers question why they should include these different heritages when it doesn't necessarily reflect their classroom. But her response to that was, well, the world reflects those.
Yeah,
Your
the
classroom
community.
doesn't reflect the entire world. So they have to step out into the world and still have some of that cultural humility and competence as they're learning about these different cultures, to be open. So yeah, thank you. So, Jenny, how do you involve families and the broader community? And I know you touched on it a bit, but how do you really involve the families with this? How do you get their buy-in, right? When you do these activities and you're sending them home for them to continue that learning and have those conversations at home, how do you involve them and get that buy-in?
Okay, a lot of the organization or a lot of early childhood settings, they focus a lot about parent involvement, parent engagement. So a lot of it has to do, getting the parents to understand when they come and enroll their children that part of the learning and part of their responsibility as well is having that parent engagement, parent involvement with the school. So a lot of it includes a lot of the volunteering, inviting them to volunteer, come and see what your child is learning in the classroom. Come and do some activities with your children. We involve a lot of our parents through parent meetings, through parent trainings. We do have a curriculum, research-based curriculum called Abriendo Puertas, Opening Doors, that is research-based that we use a lot with our family because it doesn't only talk about the family, talks about mental health, it talks about nutrition, it talks about the family. So there's a lot of input that goes into that. And what we're doing is also inviting parents to become trainers in Abriendo Puertas. So a lot of it is really getting them engaged. A lot of them, we do have a lot of families or parents that are very quiet and shy, but once they get involved, they are excited. I can tell you, Alicia, right now, we have two parents that are now wanting to get their CDA because of the volunteering and about their education they're getting through volunteering at the campus. So I'm so excited about that because it's important for us to really involve our parents and really what more can we get from a parent that is a parent and also becomes an employee and they teach their children. So a lot of it does include a lot of it getting involved, sharing that communication. How do we get it out there? A lot is social media. These parents are participating. That gets other parents excited. Um, Recently, we just had our professional development, and what I did, because a lot of our families and even our staff, they take classes, most of them are online, they never get to walk. So what I did in mine was I stole them and gave them cords for their graduation, even for a high school diploma, GED, CDA, and in any degree from associate, bachelor's, and master's. So I think it's important that message that we carry on to involve them and have those parents engaged. And having that is a rich thing because when somebody's out, hey, call that parent, they can come and volunteer. And so it's very important for us to make sure that our families are involved in every step of the way, including not only education, but nutrition. They have part in decision making in the planning of the meals. They have planning, decision making and planning of the organization in some sense. So there's a lot of levels that parents can be involved. It's really giving them those tools and resources so they can be a successful person in our communities as well. So.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it just sounds like from the moment their child is signed up, it's like inclusive and it's welcoming and it's warm. Like, we want you here, not just your child. We want you here. We want you involved. So that's amazing. Dr. Angela-Perla, same question. How do you get that buy-in from families in your area, especially with family childcare?
Um, Jenny covered 100% of the things that I do. Okay, but I can always add a couple of things because I'm a product of Head Start. My training comes, from the performance standard 100%. So I can identify myself with what Jenny is saying. But since the parental involvement is beneficial for children of all cultural groups and backgrounds, besides doing all those wonderful activities, like cultural traditional festivals, heritage festivals right now, especially that is, Hispanic heritage, I also invite, and I'll bring, because last week I did it, I invite, uh, I did the invitation to one of the local representatives. So we invite representatives from local advocacy groups, from the government, to make presentations, to assist the family child care community to identify, with resources, curriculum resources, looking for ways to present the complexity of the diversity that exists within any type of culture, because especially down here, in Florida, South Florida, this is a melting pot. So it's, at times it's a little difficult and very challenging. But thank you, Jenny, for reminding me, my roots, opening my, and remember that that is who we are, and we have to pass that to our early childhood educators.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Angela-Perla, what steps do you take to ensure that Heritage Month celebrations are also culturally responsive and appropriate?
Um, One of the approaches that I find myself consistently using, and it works, within the early childhood field, is cultural responsive teaching, what I call the CRT. Like, to validate and incorporate that approach, we can probably, if we are working with literacy, the selection of books that represent the background, the environment, home language, and routines. Um, of course, bilingual books, right? That will allow some children to make what we need, the real connection between home and school. Okay.
Mm,
Another thing, that I'll find that is very important is to be creative. When you apply the approach that I enjoy to use, the most, the cultural response approach, is, to play traditional music, and you can ask the parents, to lend you or to donate. They're usually pretty good donating music. Um, and when the children listen to that music, they incorporate. They feel that, this is also home, and I'm part of this community. Um, One thing that I always keep in mind, that cultural responsive teaching reminds me that everybody brings something to the table, and everyone has some type of value. And that is what we need to recognize. That is who we are.
yeah. So, Jenny, I'm actually going to ask you a different question. So, how do you incorporate discussions about diversity and heritage into your everyday curriculum and teaching practices? To kind of, I feel like this question really pulls, it kind of extends what Dr. Angela-Perla was just talking about with the culturally responsive teaching practices. So, how do you do that? How do you incorporate those discussions?
So I can tell you a little bit about how we incorporate those discussions in our organizations. We usually in all of our meetings and training, we start off with our mission. And I'm going to read just a quote of it, of our mission, that really we go by it, and that's really our talking point to any other vendors or any community partners, why we do what we do. So it goes like this: that we do this by providing holistic, high quality early childhood education services for children and family in a nurturing, cultural, sensitive environment, by providing services and advocating for children and families in other areas of need. And we go by that so much because that is really our mission. That is what we're here for. That's what we do. So all of our trainings and meetings start off with reading our mission, because that keeps the focus to our educators. And not even do we do it just in our trainings, but we also do it with our parents. We include that in our parent meetings, in our parent trainings, because they also need to understand the meaning of what are we here for? What do we do? Why are we always striving to do that diversity, that inclusion that we need to in the classroom? Because it's important for them to understand that, yes, we respect every sense of your cultural, your beliefs, your, just everything that deals with their culture or believe anybody's. So we really focus on the person, that they need to make sure they understand. And we as an organization, and even as teaching educators, we need to make sure that we understand the parents, because a lot of times they're not going to be in agreement with some things that we might do, or something that it has been planned. And it's their respect, is their choice to make sure that they do agree. Now, do we tell them about all this ahead of time? Yes, we do. We include them in the planning. We include them on sending them information about what's coming up. The teachers talk to them during their home visit about the information. So there's a lot of different ways that it is introduced. Now, there's different deliveries and approaches that we have to do to make them understand that, because yes, we respect everybody's religion, we respect everybody's cultural, but at the same time we need to make sure that every person is included in what we do, in a way that is very respectful for them, and making sure that they understand that, because a lot of times there's people that really don't understand everything that goes on in the world, and that is part of our job, to teach them and to educate them of what's going on. So a lot of that has to do is how we incorporate and communicate the delivery of the information that we need to share.
Hmm. Okay. So Dr. Angela-Perla, I'm actually going to ask you a different question that really kind of flows with what Jenny brought up, like a point. So, how do you address any potential challenges or conflicts, right, that may arise when it comes to celebrating different heritage in the classroom and in the community?
Um, I would say that through my years of experience, my approach has always been that first, you need to listen and understand the needs from people from other cultures. Perhaps understand what drives them and why they do what they do. And we gotta be, very alert and open to the way that they speak, the way that they talk about themselves, about their families. Jenny was mentioning when I used to do so many home visits. Okay, now I don't usually do home visits. I would do training about home visits, but I'm not into that anymore. But I remember those days. Um, One thing that that I remember and I'm teaching right now, that please try not to make assumptions about how people view their own culture, because um, we're here to teach them and to model friendship. We need to learn to be polite, not only friendly but to be polite. um, don't ever be do any type of confrontations with them, or make the others, cultures to feel that you're nobody, or if you are going to be sitting and making them feel like if they're sitting on a trial. I Another thing is, and I've been observing sometimes, I've been in cases in places where people laugh about others. uh, they don't they don't realize how an outsider may feel just because of their culture. And I'm good in asking questions before making any type of judgment. And I preach that, and I apply whatever I say.
It sounds like, if I can just kind of pulling off of what both of you have talked about, right? It sounds like a big part of it is understanding, right? Understanding the and listening. So listening, so you have the ability to understand where this person is coming from, right? But then also going back to your why, like what's your why? And here's our why, right? And this is why we do this. And so that I really I like that, because I feel like not a lot of us go into conversations with the intent to understand, right? We kind of go into conversations with the intent to make someone else understand us. um, but I feel like in these moments, it kind of puts us in the reverse. It's like, no, in order for this to really work out, especially in a way that is beneficial to these children, right, and their families, there has to be understanding on both sides. So you have to come in trying to understand who they are, where they're coming from, before kind of just pushing like, this is why we're doing this. This is what we're doing here. So, what resources and Jen, I'm going to ask you this one. What resources do you rely on for planning and implementing Heritage Month activities and events?
Okay, so we do rely a lot on our curricula that we have right now in our campuses, and that's a creator curriculum. However, we use a lot of supplements as well. We develop a our families are learning curriculum as well internally that focus really on our cultural, on our population that we serve. Now, do we need to tweak it now that the population has changed? Of course, but there's a lot of learning that has happened throughout the curriculums, the research-based curriculums that we use, and also those additional supplements that we also incorporate with the different things, because not one curriculum is custom made to a population. So we have to find those resources and tools to be able to provide those teachers also with an alternative. But the main resource that we can get is from our parents. Our parents are our greatest resource to tell us what is it that they want their children to learn, what is it that they are seeing in their communities and things like that, because they are out there. There are also our eyes and ears and things like that that we need for us to improve what we need to do and take those learning opportunities to another level. So we strive to make sure that all these curriculums that we have, like I mentioned, the Abriendo Puertas, are suitable for all the population that we have, which, they're research-based, yes, and things like that, that they are learning and they're effective. So a lot of the other resources that we have is really based on the state you're in, because each state might have a different curricula, different standards that they also go by, not just by what the national has, but also, there's even up to city that they have different things they do in their communities. So getting all those resources for our staff, or for any staff that works in early childhood, to understand that it's different, because we get individuals that come from Texas, come from Oklahoma, Indiana, Alabama, Georgia, all over, and they transfer to different locations and say, well, Indiana did it this way, and this state did it this way. Yeah, because there's specific things that each state has to do. So that's something that also needs to be looked at when we're doing the planning of what do we need to do to get those curriculums connected and integrated with each other. So
Nice. So I'm going to ask, this is our last question, but I'm going to ask it to you both. But Dr. Angela-Perla first, how do you measure the impact of your Heritage Month celebrations on your students in the community? How do you know it was successful?
You know what? Plain and simple. When I see results, the children and family understand the difference between people, such as culture, I would say cultural differences, and respect from others. And they understand that we are all different, but we are still people, and we got different beliefs and different values.
All right, I like that. So, Jenny, same thing for
Yeah.
you. How do you measure that impact, the success? What does that success marker look like for you?
Well, for me and for us, we really focus on our school readiness. Did the children our school readiness? What I get a thrill and excited about when we hear from our public school saying, "I want those children that are coming from that early childhood program
Mhm.
because they're so advanced in what is needed in comparisons to nobody going into Head Start first and then just going straight into public school." So that is one measurement that I take is about the communication that is shared between programs. And also, of course, we have all the assessments and tools and everything that we do to assess children. And those outcomes and results really depend on the teacher and how they got it, and if they're teaching, I mean, that's their results, that's their assessments. So the outcomes and results from the assessments is really important for us because we can measure the data and we can analyze it and make those improvements that we need to have other opportunities into our programs and into what else do we need to do, because it's important for us to make sure that those measures are met. And also a lot of it, Alicia, is the social media platform.
Mm.
We post a lot of things, we share a lot of things, and having those reactions or having those comments and things also that measures, are we doing what our community is asking of us, because we share that in our social medias, events, trainings, what they're doing in the classrooms, what they're doing outside the environment of the setting in the early childhood, but because they're out in the community doing different things and communicating with each other. So some of those measures are depending on different levels of how we want to measure it and how we want to go about it and getting those results.
I definitely understand that. How do we use this data? How can I determine whether the intent of this um, met its desired result? Do I need to change something a little different to do something different? So that I get for sure with, trying to manage this community and, just trying different things to see and having to go, okay, they really like this one. Okay, this one didn't work so well. So, all right. Well, that's all I have. But I appreciate you both for really taking your time out today to discuss this with me. I this the idea for this podcast really came from a blog post that I wrote last year, and I did it for CAN. And Dr. Angela-Perla was actually one of the individuals that I kind of talked to be able to incorporate some different perspectives on not just celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, but just like all the Heritage Months, right? I felt like it really there needed to be some voice to how do we appropriately, celebrate each other's heritage in a way that truly celebrates the diversity of, and the richness of our cultures, right? And
Mhm.
so, thinking when this month came around, it was like, oh, what am I going to do? And it's, oh, you know what? We could do a podcast, right? Let's repurpose this blog post and really have a much deeper conversation. So I appreciate you both for having this discussion with me. And, I will see you all at another time.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Alicia.